Good morning, or depending when you're listening to this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told how to voice radio, so I've made a podcast all about the Pokémon trading card game. And you're listening to PTCG Radio. Now, this week is another rather exciting week. We have got a whole bunch of new cards mostly from the Japanese set Bandit Ring, which is going to be coming out in the near future. However, there are other cards as well, there's a movie promo, and there's some legendary holo cards as well to have a good old gander at. Not only that, but I'm going to have a little bit of a chat with you guys about a couple of issues involving travel awards. They both centre around travel awards. And then, of course, next week, I believe, we are going to have our kind of US Nationals preview. So that you've got all that information. I did say that I was going to, because Lissandra's trump card is now officially banned, and I did say we were going to stop Lissandra's trump card, and when we did, then I was going to give you a rundown of decks that would be good or not. I haven't quite finished my list, and I don't really want to give you my list until it really is that good, so I want to have an extra week just to kind of sort that out. Plus, there is an awful lot going on this week without that. Quick shameless plug for my YouTube channel before we get going. I have been furiously editing, and I've finally gotten to the stage where the UK Nationals videos are edited. We have got rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 and 8 already on my YouTube channel. 5 and 6 unfortunately lost to technical problems on the day beyond my control. The top 8 game, featuring Fighting Bats against Seismitoad, is literally uploading as we speak. And then over the next 3 days, we will see the Juniors final going up tomorrow, which is Thursday. The Seniors final will be uploaded on Friday, and the Masters final is going to be uploaded on Saturday. So all of that lovely stuff to look forward to. And in what I consider a rather exciting announcement, hopefully by the end of next week, I'm going to be launching a new YouTube channel focusing on video games. Now, after having a chat with some of you guys on Twitter and Facebook, etc., I thank very much to all the people that gave me feedback. I've decided that expanding PTCG Radio YouTube beyond Pokemon into video games is a bad idea, and is just likely to annoy you lovely people who have supported me for the last couple of years. So I'm going to be starting a whole new channel. Don't worry, PTCG Radio will be entirely unaffected, and any videos that would have gone up will still be going up. The new channel is going to be focusing on retro games, and it's also going to be focusing on new games. So Yoshi's Woolly World will be coming out next week, and I'm going to have some first impressions and about that, an unboxing of the collector's edition and all that good stuff, as well as some classic videos of boss battles and games which are awesome, but I don't think you'll have played yet. When I do launch that, I will be asking all of your help to help me promote that and help me to grow it like I have PTCG Radio, but hopefully to a slightly less niche audience. So I'm going to be, shall we say, recruiting you guys to chuck out some links over Facebook, Twitter, etc., as well as checking it out yourselves. But anyway, that's in the future. Now let's have a look at some new Pokemon cards. Starting off with the Gardevoir from Bandit Ring. Now this is a fairy type, not a psychic type, and it's got a moderately interesting attack. For free energy, you do 50 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon. And this is alright for sniping at the bench. Back in the kind of Diamond and Pearl days, when Catcher and Pokemon Reversal, Lysandra, etc. weren't so widespread, we didn't have a bunch of cards like that. Hitting the bench was very, very important because you couldn't really drag Pokemon up from the bench. It was only really Luxray that brought that in a big degree, at least in the recent era. And even then, it was in a niche kind of set. Not every deck could really incorporate Luxray, or Luxray level X, I should say, or Luxray GL level X if you really want to be a pedant. Not every deck could really incorporate that as well as they would like to. So hitting the bench was important, but as you guys know, hopefully nowadays, hitting the bench isn't so important, and it's free energy. 50 damage to the bench for a double colourless, we could be talking. I'm not entirely sure the attack's going to be great. However, I do like the ability. Bright Heal. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. Now, anyone that's played a Water or Lightning deck and incorporated Rough Seas into it will see the benefit of being able to heal all of your Pokemon every turn. Now, I don't know if people are going to play a 1-1-1 Gardevoir line or a 1-0-1 line with some rare candy, but certainly you've got that Cradley, which allows you to bring out Stage 2 Pokemon as if they were basics. More on that when we look at the that new grass stadium in a couple of weeks' time. Probably 2 weeks' time we're going to get to that. Again, my list is not quite complete for that one either. It is happening. I think 2 weeks we're going to look at grass Pokemon that can abuse that new stadium. For anyone that's forgotten, it's a stadium that allows grass Pokemon to just evolve whenever you like. I can see people using Gardevoir in a Cradley deck or something like that. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's going to see a hugely wide range of play. But I do think it's going to... I think some decks are going to use it. Now, in one of the more surprising pieces of news from the last week, I told you last week that there was a Mega Rayquaza set coming out, a shiny Rayquaza EX box, and it had a Jumbo promo. And I told you that the Jumbo promo had a new ancient trait, Theta Max. When one of your Pokemon becomes this Pokemon, heal all damage from it. I.e., you evolve Rayquaza EX into Mega Rayquaza EX, and you heal all the damage from him. And I said it was a colourless, and I suggested that there was going to be a third Mega Rayquaza. That seemed to be the sensible option. It turns out it is, ancient trait aside, an exact reprint of the colourless Mega Rayquaza. It's got the same attack, Emerald Break, 30 damage times the number of your bench Pokemon for free colourless energy, the same HP, 220, the same weakness, lightning, the same resistance fighting, and the same colourless single retreat cost. The only difference is this ancient trait. And this poses some interesting questions. Does this mean we're going to get an errata because Delta Evolution is too strong? So now all of the Mega Rayquaza are going to have Theta Max? Or is it just going to be that if you play this Mega Rayquaza, you've now got a choice between Theta Max and Delta Evolution? As a side note here, Delta Evolution allows you to get him going in one turn. Theta Max is nice, but it means you've got to wait an extra turn to get attacking. And part of the good thing about Rayquaza is he hits hard and fast. So although the shiny Rayquaza card is beautiful, you want to be using the one with Delta Evolution. And the other question is, how rare is this one with Theta Max going to be? Now, it's a shiny, and it's a very beautiful card. These ones tend to be a bit rarer. Oh, is this going to be some kind of secret rare card that coming in the new set, which is going to be much more sought after because of its rarity? And they have done that before. There was a time when it was a Rayquaza card as well. There was a Rayquaza where the shiny edition actually came out, and it was a moderately playable card. The shiny Rayquaza, the secret rare, actually came out before Dragon's Vault, and there were tournaments where if you wanted the Rayquaza, you had to have the secret rare. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. The most likely thing here is you're going to have a choice of Delta Evolution, and this is just going to be a regular Mega EX, which you're going to be able to pull from the new set. However, very interesting that they're printing it with a new ancient trait. Now, part of my reason for thinking we're going to get a new ancient trait is we are getting shiny Kyogres. So we're getting a shiny Primal Kyogre, and we're getting a shiny Primal Groudon, both of whom also have the ancient trait Theta Max. So just like Mega Rayquaza EX, Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre are getting exact reprints, but with the new ancient trait. Now, just to be clear, Groudon's Omega Barrier is so good because it allows you to be immune from hammers, Lysandre, etc. So you'll never play Theta Max over that. In terms of the Kyogre, I could see you wanting to play Theta Max, but Alpha Growth allowing you to attach 2 cards at once really is good. Now, these shiny Primal cards are beautiful. I don't really think anyone's going to play them because Theta Max, I wouldn't pick Theta Max over Delta Evolution, Omega Barrier, or Alpha Growth. However, some people would. So, in a deck that, can kind of use that, I can see the point. I just hope that they're not only available as shiny full art Mega EXs, because then the price is gonna spike if people want to play with them. Moving on to movie promos, there is a rather attractive full art Hoopa movie promo, which is coming out in Japan. People are going to get a full art Hoopa promo with the movie's logo stamped on it if you go to screenings of the movie. And, it's not very good. It's got 70 HP, it's weak to Psychic, and for 2 Psychic energy, it does 30 times the number of coin flips you can hit, heads, and you flip a coin for every bench Pokemon you've got. So if you've got 6 bench Pokemon, you flip 6 coins, and for every head you do 30 damage. If it was Psychic Colorless, I could see this as a nice, efficient attacker in a deck that was playing Dimension Valley, because remember that Dimension Valley reduces the attack cost by 1 colorless. So you'd be able to do that for 1 colorless energy, and you can fill your bench and kind of roll the dice, literally and figuratively. As it stands at the moment, unfortunately, I just think you're never going to want to put 2 Psychic Energy onto a 70 HP basic. So, hey-ho. Now, kind of weirdly, Japan is releasing some food, and I don't quite know what the food is, to be honest. I don't know. But in this food, there is a couple of promos coming out, a Chespin and a Snorlax. Now, the Chespin it's a basic that evolves, so it's utter garbage. What is cool is you can go to pokebeach.com to see pictures of these cards. But the Chespin promo sees Chespin in a tree, and you can see Snorlax in the background lying on the floor. And in the Snorlax promo, Snorlax is kind of standing up. He's awake now, he's got his arms out, and Chespin is falling and looking scared. So it's another 2 of those cards where the 2 cards together make a bit of a story. Although the question does remain whether Snorlax is going to catch Chespin and save him, or indeed devour him. Time will tell. The Snorlax, I love Snorlax. He's long been one of my favourite Pokemon, and whenever a card comes out, I want it to be good. We did have the Plasma Snorlax, which was playable for a while. Nowadays, this one, I don't like it very much. It's got an ability, and we've seen the ability before many times, which reduces damage done by 20. Basically, an Eviolite. But Snorlax reduces damage done by 30, and he's got 120 HP, which is good for a basic. The problem is, for 4 colourless energy, you do 50 damage, which raises to 80 on a coin flip. That is way, way overpriced. Love the art, love the ability. I hate... Just let that linger for a minute, just to show how much I hate it. I really don't like the attack at all. Now, in more exciting news, Level Ball is getting a reprint. Now, Level Ball came out in Next Destinies and rotated out, I believe, at the end of last season. So anyone that's been playing for over a year will remember this card. There are some newer listeners who haven't been playing so long. It allows you to search for any Pokemon with 90 HP or less. Now, it was really good for getting stuff like Jirachi or Basics or Stage 1s in Evolution decks. It's not going to do you much good in, for instance, a Seismitoad deck. However, if you're playing Zubat, Golbat and Crobat, then you can search for both the Zubat and the Golbat using Level Ball. So, it's pretty gosh darn good. Any deck that relies on any Pokemon with under 90 HP really can get a kick out of this. Now, one of the things that really made this good before was that Jirachi was very widely played and had 90 HP, so could be fetched with Level Ball. Shaman, remember, has 110 HP, so cannot be got with Level Ball, and Jirachi we are expecting to rotate out when the next rotation happens after Worlds. No guarantee yet, but from everything we've seen, especially a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Lissandra's Trump card being banned, it's looking incredibly likely that we're going to get an XY on rotation. So, and, you know, let's also not forget that a lot of decks next format are still going to be EX focused. You know, something like Groudon Wobbuffet is likely to be playing nothing which has 90 HP or less. Something like a Manectric deck is unlikely to be playing anything with 90 HP or less. However, Raichu decks can take advantage of this, and it stops you having to do an awkward discard with Ultra Ball. Because Ultra Ball's amazing because it's universal Pokemon search, but that's at the cost of having to discard 2 cards from your hand. So, not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I think people have overreacted slightly to how good they think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be as good as everyone is claiming. However, I do think it's going to see a lot of play, but the fact that we've gone big on EX heavy decks and that Jirachi's rotating out, we're using Shaman instead and he can't be fetched with Level Ball, I think is going to reduce the effectiveness of Level Ball at least a little bit. We have a new supporter coming from Bandit Ring, Hex Maniac. And it's a very interesting supporter indeed. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, each Pokemon in play, in each player's hand, and in each player's discard pile has no abilities. It is universal ability lock. Now, think of it like Gardevoir. Because we know that we've got Silent Lab, which is a stadium that turns off abilities only from basic Pokemon. And we know we've got Wobbuffet, which turns off abilities from anything that isn't psychic. Whereas Hex Maniac turns off all abilities. Every single ability that might be coming out. So, it's kind of interesting. The other good thing about Hex Maniac, of course, is that if you're playing it, you could have your turn, use all of your abilities, and then play Hex Maniac, so that you've essentially had ability, you play it right before you attack, which essentially means that you've got abilities, but you can basically block your opponent for a turn. Do bear in mind, and it's, as I keep saying, this is the current translation we have. There's no guarantee that this is going to be how it's translated in the UK, but I use pokebeach.com for my translations. By the way, they don't pay me anything, I just use their website, so I think it's only fair to give them props occasionally. It is a good site. And I do like the new layout, I've gotten used to it, and it is pretty good. And, you know, if you play it too early, you can screw yourself over, so do be aware of that. As we've got it at the moment, it blocks all abilities from both people, so you do need to be wary about playing it too early on in your turn. Now, we've got a couple of ancient trait Pokemon from Bandit Ring to have a quick chat about as well, and they have both got these new Theta abilities. Vespiquen, a Stage 1 Grass Pokemon with 90 HP, has Theta Double. It's the same one that Entei's got from a couple of weeks ago, which means that you can attach 2 Pokemon tools to it. For 1 grass energy, you can do 20 damage, and heal damage equal to the amount you've done. Now, that doesn't sound like a particularly great attack, but if you put 2 muscle bands on Vespiquen, we're expecting Silver Bangle to be rotated out, then you're doing 60 damage and healing 60 damage for 1 grass energy. And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that in Bandit Ring we're getting the new grass stadium, which means you can evolve from Combee to Vespiquen in 1 turn. In fact, if you go second, you can be doing this on the very first turn of the game. And let's also remember that we're expecting cards like Seismitoad or, let's say, for instance, Groudon, they're weak to grass, so Vespiquen can do good against them. And in fact, Vespiquen looks like a really good Seismitoad counter. It's not resistance to water, but if nobody's got any tools out, they do 30 damage to you, and then you do 40 damage to them, doubled because of weakness. And because you've done 40 damage, you heal 40 damage, which completely heals you. Even if they've got a muscle band and you have no tools on you, they're still doing 50, and then you're doing 40 and healing 40. So it's going to take it's going to take 6 attacks for them to kill you. Because on the 6th attack, you'll go in with 58 damage, and then they'll kill you with the 5th attack. Because after 4 attacks, you'll be on 40 damage, and then they'll do 50 to KO you. So it's a fun little attack. It's not going to do anything against Groudon. Groudon's just going to run right through you. But as a card which you can get going on turn 1 of the game, doing 60 damage and healing, I mean, if it had more HP, I'd be a huge fan of Vespiquen. Let's be very clear about that. As it is, you know, even with 2 muscle bands, well, having said that, with 2 muscle bands, it does 2-hit KO a Groudon. You put 2 muscle bands on there, you're doing 60 damage, double with the weakness is 120, and then you hit the Groudon again the next turn and he's KO'd. But you're probably going to get KO'd in the middle, so you'd need to draw all 4 of your muscle bands in 2 turns. And remember, there's no trump card here to get your muscle bands back. So as a Groudon counter, no, but as a Seismitoad counter, and Seismitoad is going to keep seeing play next season, I could see Vespiquen having some legs. Which is ironic, because Vespiquen, at least in the picture, doesn't appear to have any legs. There's also a Volcarona, and Volcarona has Theta Stop. This prevents any effects of your opponent's abilities done to this Pokemon. So, for instance, Crawdaunt can't get rid of its energy. It's got 2 attacks, they're not great. For a fire energy, it does 20 damage, flip 2 coins, does 20 more for each head. So 60 for 1 fire energy is okay. Now, let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, that grass could be big with Bandit Ring because of the new stadium. And for a fire and a double colourless, 80 damage, and if they're not KO'd, your opponent switches to one of their bench Pokemon. With the current translation we've got, they would get to choose the Pokemon, because it reads, your opponent switches, so your opponent gets a choice of which Pokemon to put up. Volcarona, it's alright. It's not going to be a decent Vespiquen counter, as long as you could hit 1 out of 2 heads and get Muscle Band down, it would 1-hit KO, more than. Vespiquen I am a bit of a fan of. I just wish it had more HP. It does have a second attack, by the way, which I completely neglected to tell you. For a double colourless energy, flip 3 coins 30 times the number of heads. Now, we can expect Fliptini, the Victini that allows you to reflip coins, to be rotated out. Although if Legendary Treasures stays in, we will keep this Victini, which means you've only actually got a 1 in 8 chance of hitting 3 heads in a row. But if you can hit 3 heads with 2 muscle bands, that's 130 damage for 1 double colourless energy. And with weakness, it would KO a Groudon. But like I say, there's a 1 in 8 chance of that actually happening. There's also a 1 in 8 chance of doing nothing. So, something to bear in mind. Now, Japan is getting a new set, a Legendary Holo Collection. Now, we've seen 2 of these in the past, in recent memory. We saw Shiny Collection, which was reprinted as Radiant Collection within Legendary Treasures. And we saw Dragon Collection, which was reprinted as Dragon Vault, which was in its own kind of a blister with 3 packs. And actually, I'm lying to you, because we also saw Double Crisis, which was released very recently, the Team Aqua Team Magma set, which was again released in its own kind of bespoke blisters and booster packs rather than as a set. So with Double Crisis and Dragon Collection being released as their own little mini sets in blisters with a couple of booster packs or 3 booster packs, and only Shiny Collection being released within another set, we can probably assume that this Legendary Holo Collection is going to be released as its own little set, like Double Crisis or Dragon Ball. And it's, I believe all the cards in it are shiny, and there's a whole bunch of full art Pokemon. And they're all garbage. There is a Hooper, or all the ones that have been revealed anyway. There is a Hooper, which for a Psychic Energy allows you to search for 2 item cards, or for 3 Psychic Energy, does 100 damage and forces your opponent to switch. They get to choose what they put active. But it's an EX of 140 HP that takes 3 energy attachments to do any damage. Again, it's not got any colourless cost, so you can't even use Dimension Valley to reduce the cost of the attack. There is an Arceus, interestingly enough, the first Arceus card printed since the Arceus set, which was the last set printed in the Diamond and Pearl Platinum block, right before Heart Gold Soul Silver was released. And that was when I got into the game. The very, very first tournament I ever went to was an Arceus pre-release. So we're talking back in, I think, 2011 this was released. Maybe early 2011, late 2010. That was the last time we had new Arceus cards printed. And the only Arceus cards we've had printed were in that set, except for the really good promo Arceus. But even that was printed in a kind of little pack which was released to accompany the set. And he's terrible. For a colourless energy, move any number of energy attached to your bench Pokemon to this Pokemon. But you're weak to fighting and have got 120 HP. So essentially you move all your energy to Arceus and then you sit there hoping your opponent doesn't KO you. Well, that's not a good plan. You know, Lugia doing 20 times the number of damage attached to both Pokemon for a double colourless energy is going to have a field day with Arceus. Now, there is some potential in Judgment Burst. 10 damage plus 30 more for each type of basic energy, but for a minimum of 3 energy. So if you can get 6 different basic energy, you're doing 190. That's pretty cool. You could maybe wing it in, but it's got to be basic energy, so you couldn't, for instance, use 4 rainbow energy. So that's going to take an awfully long time to do anything. You're never going to get that attack working. There's a white Kyurem for a fire and a double colourless, 40 damage if heads discard an energy attached to the defending Pokemon, which I like, but not for free energy. Or for a fire, water colourless, 120 damage during your next turn. This Pokemon can't use Flare Blizzard. Now, it is a dragon type, so what you could do for the first attack is you could use Reshiram, the new one from Roaring Skies, you can use his ability to attach a fire energy to White Kyurem, and then you can attach a double dragon energy as your attachment for the turn, and as long as you can switch the Reshiram out and the White Kyurem into the active, you can do 40 damage and maybe discard an energy attached to the defending Pokemon. But that is an awful lot of effort on 120 HP basic for 40 damage. There's a Hawlucha that hasn't got any good attacks, a Den that doesn't have a good attack, a Braixen that doesn't have any good attacks, a beautiful Palkia, Latias and Reshiram, which are too blurry to read, and one of the most beautiful, and I'm using that word a lot today, and I'm sorry, but a lot of these cards are beautiful, so you're going to have to forgive me for that. A beautiful Regigigas, which has got the ability, it's 130 HP, which is good on a basic, although weakness to fighting kind of sucks. When you attach an energy card from your hand to this Pokemon, heal 20 damage. Okay, well now you put, something like some kind of tool on there, maybe that new, he's got a retreat cost of 4 anyway, so put that new boot trainer on him, which gives him an extra 20 HP, then you've got 150 HP basic that heals 20 damage every time you attach an energy. Now we're talking, this is on the verge of playability, if the attack isn't garbage, but it is. 4 energy, 100 damage. Not a good start. Flip 2 coins. Okay, if both of them are tails, this attack does nothing. So you're paying 4 energy to do 100 damage with a 1 in 4 chance of doing nothing. And no bonus to flipping these coins. I love this Regigigas card, and I haven't done this. I think the last time I got just page after page of the same card was, I'm going to have to look up the card. It was a Remoraid. It was a Remoraid from the Lost Zone set, which the name escapes me. I'll look that up while we're doing the podcast. But that Remoraid was just a beautiful card, and I found this the other day. I've got a binder where I've got like 4 pages of this Remoraid card, just because it was some of the best artwork I'd ever seen, or at least some of my favourite artwork, which was weird. I can see this Reshiram kind of being that. I can see this Reshiram being one where I just get page after page. Call of Legends. It was a Call of Legends Remoraid. The reprint set that wasn't Legendary Treasures. Or to put it another way, the reprint set that wasn't good. At least Legendary Treasures reprinted loads of really good stuff. There's also a Pachirisu in Call of Legends that was a beautiful card. So, artwork-wise, it's a lovely Regigigas. He's standing up, he's looking big, he's got a tree behind him, he's about to throw a punch, or it looks like he might be. There's rays coming down from the heavens to show how amazing he is. But oh my goodness, that card is unplayable. And when he came out, I had people tweeting at me, because I think it was only a few weeks ago on the podcast that I basically said, come on, can I have a new Regigigas now? I want to play Regigigas. And they half listened. They've given me a new Regigigas, but I don't get to play Regigigas, and that makes me sad. Now, there is also a set coming out in Japan, the Emble EX versus Togekiss EX deck. Honestly, we haven't got full translations there. Neither of the cards looks amazing, but they're both EXs that seem to have underwhelming attacks, but we can't see the HP of either of them. We can't see the attack cost for Emble. So I'm going to leave those 2 cards for when we have a clearer image. And the final cards, I did tell you there were a few to be revealed today, are Eevee and Registeel, again from Bandit Ring. And I do get the feeling, Pokemon Japan has been feeding these cards to us time and time again. And I do get the feeling that by the time Bandit Ring drops, we will have talked about all of the main cards before. But that's alright, because it means that I'll be able to, I've had time to think about these cards, so it means I'll be able to give you a really good idea about them, and I'll have seen people talk about them on the interwebs. The Eevee, it's a basic, it's got 60 HP and it doesn't have any outstanding attacks. It's not as good as the one that's got the quick evolution ability, so, just use that one. But the Registeel interests me. For a metal and a colourless, 30 damage, for every heads you can hit before you hit a tails, i.e. flip a coin, if it's a heads you do 30 damage, keep flipping until you hit tails. For every heads, you do 30 damage. But the attack I really like is a metal double colourless, 70 damage, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX, automatically discard 1 energy attached to it. Now this is kind of good. Think about getting rid of Seismitoad's double colourless, or think about getting rid of one of Groudon's energies whilst at the same time as playing a as the same time as playing an enhanced hammer or something along those lines. You can use this to cripple EX decks, especially ones like Groudon, which rely on a lot of energy. It does take free energy, although one can be a double colourless, but if you're playing any metal Pokemon, you're going to be playing them with Bronzong, so it's going to be easier to get all of your energy onto the field. And it's been a while since we had a Registeel. I feel sorry for Registeel, because in my Donphan deck from 2012 Nats, which I mentioned far too often on this podcast, I played one Regirock and one Regice, but I didn't play any Registeel. I mean, the Registeel at the time was like, I forget, it was something like discard 2 cards and heal 20 damage, or, I mean, something truly bad. Whereas the Regice and the Regirock, I mean, the Regirock was discard 2 cards, and you get to attach an energy from your basic fighting, from your discard pile to Regirock, and then you could switch it over to your active. And Regice was discard 2 cards, and your opponent had to switch their active Pokemon. Really good in a format with Spiritomb, where he blocked trainers if he was active. So I loved Registeel and Regirock. They did a lot of good for me. Registeel he wasn't as good, unfortunately. It makes me kind of sad, but hey ho. I mean, they were from Legend Awakened. There we go. It was discard 2 cards from your hand and remove 3 damage counters from Registeel. Remove 30 damage. I mean, it's not good. Hey ho. New Registeel. I don't think it's amazing, but it's got some potential legs there. So they are all the new cards coming from that have been revealed this week. As always, if you want to tweet me about any of them, you can tweet me at the Wassy, or you can email me at ptcgradio@hotmail.co.uk. When I started telling you about YouTube earlier, what I didn't mention was some of the things I've got planned, including I am going to start doing pack openings and box openings. It's something I've resisted for a while, but I've had a lot of people requesting it. So probably sometime next week, maybe the week after, I'm going to do a little pack/box opening of some fantastically fake Spanish cards that I picked up a while ago that I think a lot of you will get a kick out of seeing. And then when the new set comes out on August 12th, you can expect a box opening from me on August the 12th, if not before. So lots of fun stuff coming along. Oh, and I should also mention, I've got a couple of league challenges from before Roaring Skies just sitting on my computer waiting to be commentated and uploaded. And I am going to a league challenge on Sunday at Chimera Games in Nottingham, which this is obviously the first weekend where Lissandra's trump card is banned. So I'll be going along this weekend and taking part in a league challenge without Lissandra's trump card. So hopefully starting next week we can get some of those games uploaded for you lovely people. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of things which have come up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc. over the past couple of weeks. Or the past few days, really. But they're confusing to me. So, top 22. Here's we go. In Europe, the top 22 players by championship points get a paid invite. And what that consists of is your flight to Boston paid for, which you're talking a minimum of about £500-600 from the UK. Think about $900. And 5 nights in a fairly nice hotel. Now, I had a look at booking, and unfortunately it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to go to Worlds this year for various reasons. But just for some comparison, I had a look on some websites, and I found a moderate hotel in Boston for 5 nights and flights for £850. Now, that's a much less nice hotel. It's £850. So getting top 22 in Europe is huge. You are basically about £1,000 better off than you would have been if you didn't make top 22. So let me make it very clear. Top 22, and obviously top 22 get into the second day of Worlds, which exponentially increase your chances of going and getting really good prizes and going deep into Worlds. Awful lot of people are going to drop out in day 1 of Worlds, and day 2 is really going to be the big kind of exciting Worlds event. So you really want to be in day 2 of Worlds and top 22 get there. So what I'm getting at here is the top 22 players from around Europe, based on championship points, are getting a huge advantage. And here's the problem. Not all nationals are the same. Now, it looks like the cutoff is going to be around 900 points-ish. Now, that means that it's almost impossible to actually go about getting an invite through anything other than for anything other than going to Worlds. I mean, you can essentially go to 4 regionals and get yourself 600 points. You could then go to 4 cities and get yourself 200 points. And then I think you could get around about, I think it's 6 league challenges is the maximum. I could be wrong about that one. But let's say, for argument's sake, you win 6 league challenges to get yourself 90 points, 15 per win. Then you win 4 cities to get yourself 200 points, and you win 4 regionals to get 600 points. That will give you 890 championship points. Now, not all nationals have finished yet, so I don't want to have a look at the final here. But 890 points would basically put you around about the bubble. It's not safe, although you might get in. We'll have a look in a couple of weeks when all the nationals have finished. I think Danish nationals is this weekend. And that's if you max out with wins. 4 regional wins, 4 cities wins, and 6 league challenge wins. No second places. I.e., you're going to have to pick up some points from nationals to get top 22. Which kind of screws me if I'm going to be commentating nationals from now on. But hey-ho. So essentially, you need to get good at nationals to get top 22. Now, other things have happened. Now, I believe the number of paid invites has increased. But whereas last year you would get top 2 invites in some countries like the UK, Germany and France, I believe, where first and second got a paid invite, and the winner of every European regionals got a paid invite, now I believe the only people getting paid invites from nationals are the winners of French, German and UK NAS. Now, this introduces a curious system whereby for every national championships that is not the UK, France or Germany, there's no real prize for winning. Now, don't get me wrong, you get a couple boxes of the set and you get a trophy and all of that, but most people want to win nationals to get the kind of £1,000 trip to Worlds. If you get second at nationals or top 4 at nationals, you get a trophy, you get a couple of boxes, and you get top 4 at nationals. The difference between top 4 and first is, I think the wording on the trophy is a little bit different. That's the basic difference for every other European country for coming second, third and fourth rather than first. So there's no real incentive to win. However, most of the top players in each country know the other top players. What that means is, if you go to somewhere like Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, etc., if you're playing against somebody in top 8, and they've got a chance to get a top 22 paid invite, and you don't, why would you not scoop to them? Now, just to double check the rules here, I want to make this very clear. You are allowed to scoop to anyone you like whenever you like for any reason whatsoever, as long as you have not been coerced or getting anything in return. So if you say, I'll scoop to you if you give me your boxes, that is a disqualification for both people if you're found out. If you say, I'm going to scoop to you because you can get top 22 and I'm a nice person and I want you to get top 22, that is okay. Even if your opponent then turns around and goes, oh, cheers, dude, that was a really nice thing for you to do, have the boxes I got as prizes, as long as it wasn't, give me your boxes and I'll scoop, it's absolutely fine. And I have heard rumours and reports, nothing confirmed, that some European nationals have basically been a scoop fest. By which I mean, hey, these 3 people, these 2 people, however many, have a legitimate chance of being in the top 22 in Europe and getting a paid invite. Everyone scoop to them and make sure they get top 22, so they get a travel invite. And in countries with especially quite small nationals, everybody knows each other, people tend to be friends, and this happens. That's kind of annoying. It also gives a huge advantage to anyone with later national championships, because the later the national championships are, the better idea you've got how many points it's going to take, so the better idea you've got of how far you need to be scooped to let you in. If you've got a later national championship and you're in the top 8 and you know that top 4 gets you into top 22, your top 8 opponent is going to be more willing to scoop to you than if you might or might not get in if you make top 4. So the later your nationals, the better advantage you've got. Now, Pokemon did actually stop updating the points to try and stop people scooping. If you go on the website, it wasn't updating from national championships to kind of stop people doing this. Unfortunately, with the internet, that obviously doesn't work. But we had a weird situation this past weekend where people wouldn't tell anyone the results of Portuguese nationals. Everybody, all the top Portuguese players basically got together, and they were very open about this. They decided, we are not going to tell you who was the top 4 in our national championships. And the reason to not tell us, of course, is if we don't know who made top 4 at their nationals, then we don't know how many points the cutoff's going to be. People are going to be less inclined to scoop to us. Now, they have since told us the results, but because of that, I refuse to acknowledge them on this podcast. But it's just a weird situation, and it's kind of inevitable. Don't get me wrong, Pokemon are providing more paid trips, and that is a good thing. But it's kind of odd that we've now ended up in this situation where you get to nationals, and there are nationals where there's 2 or 3 people in the event that can get a paid invite, and nobody else can. So everybody's scooping to them because, well, why wouldn't we scoop to them? We want them to get to Worlds. It's a weird situation. I think I would like to see Pokemon do something about this next year, although I don't know what they could do. You know, they could make it kind of, I don't know, they could make it the top 16 and just give the first prize award to everyone in Europe, but then you're going to have more people who get the paid invite through winning nationals and through top 22. I don't know. But I think if you gave a paid invite to the winner of every European nationals, that would save it somewhat. And my final thing I want to talk about today is people moaning about prizes. Now, scholarships have been cut, except for Worlds, where scholarships have increased. Scholarships are basically an award of money given if you do well in a tournament, and these are given to help you with your education, ostensibly. And national scholarships have gone down, and I think regionals used to have scholarships but don't anymore, although World scholarships have increased dramatically. And I go around the internet and I see people moaning constantly, this is bad and they're reducing prizes. And yes, in some tournaments the prizes have gotten worse and the scholarships have gotten worse. But nobody ever gives Pokemon credit for anything. 2 things I want to say before we start. Firstly, Pokemon is a business, they're here to make money, they're not here to be nice to us. And secondly, if you are only moaning about things getting worse, you are not being realistic. The World scholarships are much higher than they were before. You could even say that to a large degree the scholarships have just been relocated, and they've been relocated to the people who are most deserving in terms of playing really well. But the other thing I've seen people moaning about, first of all, why are we only getting a playmat for paying in nationals? We're paying $30 and we're just getting a playmat. Where are our t-shirts? It's the only, it's $30. I know it sucks, and I know you didn't used to pay entry fees, but in the UK we don't even get a mat, so, there's that. But the thing that's really irked me is people complaining, why are we not getting paid invites for the top 8 at US nationals? Now, let's go through this. Last year, at US Nationals, the top 8 got a travel award. So if you made top 8 at US Nationals, you are now getting a paid invite. You were getting a paid invite to Worlds. And the top person in Canada got a paid invite to Worlds. That means that between the US and Canada, Pokemon was handing out 9 paid invites. They are now giving invites to the top 16 in the US, and I believe that, and Canada, the winner of US, and I want to say the winner of Canadian Nationals. I'm not 100% on that. Someone let me know if I'm wrong. So now we've gone from 9 paid invites to up to 18 paid invites. I say up to 18 because the winner of US and Canadian Nationals could well already be in the top 16, and they don't stack. So if the winner of US Nationals already has an invite through top 22, they essentially have 2 invites. Although again, if the winner of US Nationals already has a paid invite, I can imagine them scooping to the person who came second because, again, the only thing you're missing out on is the wording on the trophy. Although the scholarships are actually different between first and second, so maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. They can sort that out amongst themselves. The point is this. They have doubled the amount of paid invites they're giving out. They've gone from 9 to 18. And people are whinging because top 8 at Nats don't get paid invites. And they're moaning, oh, Pokemon are giving out worse prizes. And I can't argue with the reduced scholarships. I can't argue with the lack of booster pack support compared to the olden times. You're right. They have cut prize in those areas. But actually, the top 16 get a travel award and $300 spending money. The next 16, so 17 to 32, get a $1,000 travel stipend. And if you're going from the US to the US, I'm sure you could get a couple days hotel. And if you're in the US, 3 nights hotel and, a short flight / train ride across, a couple of states or wherever you deem to live, I'm sure you could do that for £1,000. Oh yeah, and the next 32... So 33rd to 64, get $750. And again, there's going to be a lot of people in the US that can get to Boston and get a couple nights in a hotel for $750. So, just to confirm, 16 people are getting a paid invite and $300. 16 people are getting $1,000 and 32 people are getting $750. Compared with 9 paid invites. I don't see how you can possibly argue this is worse. Now again, there are plenty of examples of where Pokemon has cut prize support. The first year I went to Nationals, I got given a t-shirt, a booster pack, obviously the promo, as you tend to do, and a 50-50 chance of winning a mat / hat. Or binder, you sat down one round and flipped a coin. So, yeah. And then this year we just got a promo card. So absolutely, they are cutting support in some places. You don't get Nationals t-shirts in the UK anymore. Fine. But I don't understand the theory of let's moan that 7 travel awards have been cut when potentially 32 have been added. I just don't get it. So yeah, cheer up. And I think that'll basically do it for this week's PTCG Radio. We've had a little bit of a moan. We have talked about a whole bunch of new cards. And we have talked about some exciting things coming up on YouTube. Check my YouTube right after this goes up. You will see a top 8 game from UK Nationals. And for the next 3 days, you will see the 3 finals from the 3 age divisions. And look out for my new YouTube channel coming hopefully towards the end of next week. I'll be spamming it all over Twitter and Facebook, etc. And I'm going to be asking you guys to do the same. Until then, make sure you tweet me at the Wassy or email me at ptcgradio@hotmail.co.uk if you've got anything you disagree with or would like to add. Thank you very much for listening. My name's Ross and you've been listening to PTCG Radio.